Have you believed this society's narrative that you should go to school, get a job, get a house, spend 30 years paying a mortgage off, retiring, getting a little pension, and just seeing out your days? What a terrible life that would be. But so many people have fallen into that. People who had amazing ambitions, people who had they wanted to go and conquer the world and do all these things, and they've resorted to that. Maybe they get a job straight out of uni, and then it doesn't really satisfy, but then promotion comes, a little bit of pay, extra things like that, get a bit of promotion, a new title, etc. 20 years later, you find yourself still in this job, still in the industry that you hate, because you've got this big mortgage that you have to pay off to get a crap pension at the end of it, or even a good pension, but you've wasted your good years. In my opinion, right, wasting your best years, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, maybe even your 50s, so that you can be comfortable when you're in your 60s and 70s and 80s, when you can barely move, you can barely function as well as you could in your 20s and 30s. For me, that is a terrible life. But unfortunately, government, society and everything has sort of put us in this box where that's what you do. Obviously the government wants to do that because they create workers, they get their tax money every year, they get the house prices and stuff increase, and it's all beneficial for them, plus they can control the population. But think about it, think about that logically. How much are you giving up to have a life like that? At 7 years old, what was your dream? It wasn't to own a house, was it? It was to do some heroic thing. At 12 years old, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to get a pension one day. So where did this change in your life where you wanted to do some awesome stuff, and then you ended up just settling for a house and a pension and a well-paying job that you don't really enjoy? Now, for me, that is not a life well spent. I'd rather be skint, but actually have some incredible memories, have risked it, have experienced incredible things, and actually had a life worth living. And I think that's for us as men. We need to really have a look at our lives and go, right, am I where I should be, or have I settled? If you have settled in your life, you need to have a massive word with yourself. And of course, I'm not saying, throw the career away and everything and just move to the mountains. But seriously, when you're in your 60s and 70s, are you going to look back at the life you're living right now and go, yeah, I'm really happy with the choices I made? Or are you going to regret it, like so many men do in their 60s and 70s, even their 50s? This is a question that each man has to, in my opinion, dwell on. But we're so distracted with TV, sport, these other things that, again, the government love that we have, all the channels, all the sporting events, and we just live for the weekend and stuff like that. It's distractions to keep you in this box. And if you've seen the film The Matrix, there's a really potent scene where he sort of comes awake and he looks out, and there's all these people in these pods, like millions of people in these pods that are asleep, and his eyes have been open to it. And when you realise that this is the system, when you realise this is what society is doing, and your eyes are open to it, you can't any longer conform to it. And then you have to challenge yourself in these ways. And that's what this video is about. I want to challenge you and pull you out of your comfort zones. Like, have you settled? Even if one person responds and goes, this is me, fantastic, video well done, boom, done. But this can happen in every aspect, in every industry, in every job, even jobs that you could deem and go, wow, that's an incredible job. Actually, people have settled because that's become their comfort zone. And I just think whenever you're stuck in your comfort zone for too long, you're doing yourself a disservice. What's the next thing? What's the next scary thing to do? What's the next risk? What's the next fearful thing? And I'll give you an example of this in my fighting. So I've boxed since I was 18. So boxing became my comfort zone, I'll be sparring, good standard, had pros in the gym. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't comfortable by any stretch of the imagination, but the boxing gym became my standard of comfort. Then I started doing judo. All of a sudden I'm getting thrown on my head and stuff like that. I was like, wow, this is out my comfort zone. And then that became my comfort zone. Then I started doing BJJ. And again, wow, like a whole new sport, groundwork, getting choked out and all that. But slowly that becomes your comfort zone. And then recently on my 35th birthday, I started MMA, which is for me like the final frontier in the fighting game, where you're getting kicked, you throw a straight right and you're getting kicked to the stomach, or you're getting kicked in the legs by a 17-year-old and he's just like teeping you in the stomach and that. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here. My boxing's not effective against someone who's kicking me with their leg, obviously with their legs. And for me, I don't do MMA necessarily to like be harder. Of course, that's a good byproduct, but it's to continually push myself out my comfort zone. And all these things that I do in my sporting life is to push me out my comfort zone. Because I found, and I'll give you another example of this, when I left the Marines, I would sort of like, in my head I was like, I'm a Royal Marine, you know, I'm mentally tough and stuff. I started a running program during lockdown, and the first couple of sessions I wanted to quit because it was so hard and hadn't done much running for a while. And I realised that my mind had become really weak compared to where it was as a Royal Marine. What I realised is that the mind is a muscle that must continually be worked. A bit like your biceps or your quads. If you don't work them, you can't rely on, oh yeah, do you remember I had a 190 kilo squat 3 years ago? It's like, yeah, but what can you squat now? 120. Right, so you're at a 120 squat then, you're not a 190 lifter. I was then, yeah, but you're not anymore. So same as the mind, I can't keep talking about, I was a Marine. I have to continually stress this mind, small adaptations to stress so that I can manage more stressful loads. And when we stay in our comfort zone, we are choosing to just either stay at a base level of ability to deal with stress, or we diminish. And that's what weight training is. It's about adapting to new levels of stress. That's what progressive overload is. But you have to do that with the mind as well. And the way you do that is by getting out your comfort zone, by not settling for this life that is just get a job, get a house, pay a mortgage off for 30 years, retire with a pension of £1,000 a month. Okay, I'm dead, pass on the house to the kids. There's more to life than this. What's your mission? What are you being called to? What scares you but you know you should be doing it? What should you be pursuing? What comfort should you be giving up? What have you settled for as a man? When you look at your nation and the things that happen in this nation right now and how the government are treating its people and letting immigration just go out absolutely crazy, are you settling with grumbling about it in the pub, or are you actually prepared to stand up against the government and go, what the heck, what's going on here, and actually holding their feet to the fire? Whatever aspect it is in your life that you're settling with, you need to attack this, you need to address this. That is your duty as a man. I'll leave that with you.